might actually work for us um, and our business. And so before we let her take the stage, we just have a couple of housekeeping. First, we want to know, so put it in the comments, as we head into fall, what's the biggest goal before the end of the year that you have? So drop it in those comments. This is going to be where you can ask any of your questions throughout today's webinar. Try to stump her. She's great. Ask really specific questions, and we will get them answered throughout today's presentation. And then these webinars are free and open to the public, and we have our sponsors to thank for that. And so today we want to give a huge shout out to Best Point Web Design and just thank them for their continued support and sponsorship. And we are have the privilege of having them kind of tell us about their business.
Hi, my name is Brian Kreckemeyer. I live on the family farm near West Point, Nebraska, and I am the founder and mentor at Best Point Web Design. And Best Point creates websites, but we also create futures. That's kind of what makes us unique. We hire high school and college students to not only do the work, but we like to teach them about entrepreneurship, about running a business, and about how great it is to be in rural Nebraska. So just want you to meet a couple of them really quickly.
Hi, I'm Jillian.
I'm Bree.
I'm Gigi.
I'm Noah.
I am River.
Hi, I'm Mandy.
You know, I started this business 10 years ago because I saw something in our young people. There was a spark. They weren't afraid to try anything and do new things, be innovative. And I see that in our team today here at Best Point. We're now creating apps. We're doing artificial intelligence, AI apps, just transforming our clients, their businesses, really transforming their lives. And I'm really excited about the future at Best Point.
So thank you again to Best Point. We also want to highlight our featured member.
Yes, our featured member this week is Honey Badger TWG. They've been a member since 2023, and they empower individuals in firearms, tactical, and medical training. And so he is a nurse as well. And so he has tactical drills, courses, gun safety that he is providing to his community. And so definitely check out Honey Badger TWG if you're wanting to gain some more knowledge about tactical training, medical training, as well as firearms. And if you're ever interested in learning more about Grow Nebraska, we would love to meet with you, see if it's a good fit, see if we can even get you connected to some other free resources across the state. We have so many great resources, a whole brochure list. And so definitely reach out to Cami and I, and we'd love to see how we could provide support to your business and see if it's a right fit. And I'm now going to pass it on over to Suzanne and let her take it away.
Hello, hello. That picture makes me laugh. So thank you, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm going to do first things first, technical, make sure everything works here. So you tell me if you can see my full screen, and it should be a slide of me, basically. Are we good?
You're golden.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. First of all, thank you, Tanya and Cami. You're always such gracious intro and hosts and all of that. So thank you. And thank you to Grow Nebraska just for all of the many resources and the opportunity to speak again today. Welcome, everybody. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes to 55 minutes just diving into how your calendar can work for you. And I'm going to take you back just to review some of what we did last month in case you weren't able to join us. But first, just a little bit about me. I'm Suzanne Combs Brown. I am a leadership and business coach, and I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I woke up this morning, side note, and my internet was out. So good news is there's amazing people in my community that allowed me to get into a co-working spot and be available and ready for this webinar. So all is well. But I am a leadership and business coach. Like I said, I help leaders hone into what I call our leadership superpower, which is self-awareness. And through self awareness, we gain clarity, we gain confidence, and that leads to all aspects of our lives, whether it be managing our time, whether it be decision making, whether it be better communication, better relationships. Because at the end of the day, all we have control over is ourselves. And the more we're aware of who we are, how we live, how we lead, then we can be aware of how that impacts everything else we do and all the people that we work with and are surrounded by. So it's one of my favorite topics. And I also founded Kairos Leadership Collective, which is a program that I work with women leaders specifically in terms of core competencies around self awareness. And I hold monthly events where we really dive into how we can take control over our lives through our own self awareness and gain clarity and confidence in our lives. And I have 3 pillars. We do mix and mingles, we do group coaching, and we do mastermind events. So that's a little bit about me. Outside of that, I have 5 children. They are all adults now. At least by age. And the youngest is 22. So we have an empty nest, my husband and I. And we are enjoying some of that now that we've moved them along. And they all live close to us. So we see them all the time. And I'm a nana to 6. So they keep me very busy. So, enough about me. Let's really just dive into designing a calendar that works for your business today. And put comments in, put if there's anything you want to share along the way, make sure that you do. And we will dive in here. I want to tell you a little bit about what brought me to kind of honing in and really being passionate about self awareness. So, I spent over 23 years in a corporate role and learned a ton, led over 11 different teams in 11 different roles in my corporate career. And it was very often that leaders would come to me and business owners would come to me wherever you're leading. They would come to me and not feel like they had time to manage, right? Or they didn't feel like they had control of the time in their lives and the time that they needed to work and live, if you will. So, I really started asking a lot of questions about the choices they had and how they were managing their calendars and how they were managing um, I guess, conversations and meetings and all of the things that make up our day. And that just led me to always come back to each individual, right? And being aware of how what our strengths are and how we go about managing time, how we make decisions. So, in that corporate career, I was very fortunate to have lots of development myself and be invested in. And then I wanted to take that and share it with others. And that's really where Kairos Leadership Collective program and my one on one coaching business was born in terms of working with leaders around that aspect. All right. So let's dive in terms of today. I want to take you back, like I said. So, if you were with us on the 25th, I think it was the 25th of September for the first session, we talked a lot about mastering time by knowing how you work. And so it was really diving into the strengths you have, areas of opportunity, and how that impacts how you spend your time. So today, what we're going to do is take some of that knowledge. And if you weren't able to make it, good news is I'm going to fast track you and catch you up really quick. So we're going to be able to create realistic, flexible scheduling systems that works for you because we're all individuals. And based on our own awareness, we work differently. You're going to learn to prioritize your tasks and you're really going to be able to drive profit and progress in your business. We're going to practice some boundary setting, right? In terms of how you prioritize things and what you have to say no or not today to in order to do that. And then we'll go over some tools where you can really reduce some of the firefighting in the reactive mode and regain control of your time and your calendar. So there is a workbook there. If you want to download that, you can and have access to that. If you can't download it or that's not how you want to work, the good news is any of the activities I take you through today, you just need a paper and pen. So make sure you have that handy or your phone or your laptop and you can do your own work in terms of that. So no need for the workbook. It's not essential. All right. So I want you to think about a few questions as we get started. How many of you have a time management system that you use today? And you can put your answers to these in the chat. How many of you have one that you're using today? The second question is, how many of you have tried more than one time management system in the last 5 years? And when I say system, I'm not talking about sticky notes. That's not a system, right? We all use them, but that's not a time management system. So if you tried at least one time management system for yourself in the last 5 years, put a yes or put a thumbs up in the chat. And then how many of you feel like you have control of your time and how you spend it? And that can change with different seasons of our life. But in the season that you're in, do you feel like you have control of your time and how you spend it? So go ahead and put your comments there in the chat, and we'll take a look at those as we continue on. All right. So thinking about how and where you are with your time management, I want to do a review from the class or from the time that we spent last month on September 25th. And I want to take you through an activity for just a few minutes to catch you up in case you weren't able to make it. And you can find this activity in the workbook at all, but it's called the ABCD activity. And so in this ABCD activity, if you're working on a notebook, just draw 3 lines. You're going to have four columns there and label them A, B, C, and D. I want you to, in column A, think about the tasks and skills, and this is just in regards to your own self awareness. What are the tasks and skills that you are better at than most? They give you great energy. You thrive when you get to do these tasks and skills. You're known for them, like people that don't even maybe know you closely or in your immediate circle, they still know you do these. And people ask for your help with this all the time. So I want you to list some of your A skills and tasks. And as you're listing that, I'm going to go on to B, C, and D just to for those of you that are working along. And this is an activity you can go back to as well, even after this webinar, and do some more work with it. But for the sake of time, I'm going to take you on through. So B, tasks and skills. It's a little bit different than A. These are ones you're pretty good at. Maybe you're not the best at these, but they are tasks that you can do well overall. You get some energy from this, like you enjoy some of it, but you might have a limit on the energy that you feel. Like after a few hours, you may be tired of this task. And people may not know you're good at this unless it's like your close group of friends. So I have an example of a B task for me. Although I am a business and leadership coach and a business owner, I also love to plan events. And that happens a lot in my business, right? I hold workshops and I hold mix and mingle events and group coachings. However, I just love to plan parties and weddings and graduations and showers. So, not everybody knows about this. It's not on my resume. It's not part of my job description, if you will. However, my friends and my family definitely know that I love to do this and I'm very good at it. So, I'm asked often to help, and it's something I do often because it is a B task for me. It's something that gives me energy most of the time, and I do enjoy it. So, it's a B task for or a skill for me. All right, so C and D. C, you're average at these tasks and skills. You get a little embarrassed maybe when you have to do them because you know that, either you're going to make some mistakes or you're a little uncomfortable because you're not necessarily an expert or it's not something that you just feel extremely confident about. And you do get tired and you lose energy while you're working on these tasks. And then D tasks, you're just not good at these, right? I always describe these as like your worst at most people that are, your worst at most others with these tasks. Like this is the task, like if people are looking around the room for a volunteer for this task, you like make sure you don't make eye contact. You're like scrolling. You don't want anyone to make eye contact because you just don't want this. You're slower at it. You have to take lots of breaks when you do it. You still make mistakes and they drain you. Like it's just draining to you. For me, this is my accounting and process for tax preparation with spreadsheets. This is a D test for me. Again, we all have to do D and C tasks. That's part of life. It's part of running a business. However, um, be aware of what they are. So for me, the accounting processes with spreadsheets with my business and with my family and life is definitely a D task. Okay. So I went quickly through that. And again, this is something you can go back to, but I want to talk about how you can really dive into this and use this in terms of managing your time. So your A tasks and your B tasks, those are tasks that you have strengths around. And oftentimes we tend to do those first, right? Because they give us energy. We're excited to do them. We might do them without pay just because we enjoy them. However, as you think about your self awareness and those being strengths, it's also important to think about, when do you do your best work, or when do you need to have work that gives you energy because you don't have natural energy yourself at that time. So I'll give you an example here. I often was doing some of my A and B tasks when I had a choice, when I had control over it. I was doing those first because I was excited to do them. I liked doing them. They gave me energy. However, I am also a morning person with natural energy in the morning. So for me, I had to think about how I set up my day. So that's a question I have here for you. How do you set up your day knowing what you know about your energy in the morning, at lunchtime, in the afternoon, in the evening? And how does that come into your own self awareness and how you schedule things that you have control over? So I flip flopped what I was doing, and I actually schedule things that give me energy, the A and B tasks. I schedule them in the afternoons because I have less natural energy then, and those tasks give me energy. They feed me, right? So, question is, how do you set up your day? How do you think about some of the tasks that you're doing to set up your day that makes sense with your natural energy times and the times that you don't have natural energy, and you could use some of those things to give you some energy? Another question to think about in your A and B tasks is, when are you most creative and how do you use that to schedule tasks? So, even in your C and D space, if you're naturally creative in the morning, that's when I do my best creative work. I I also intertwine some C and D tasks because I need creativity to help me in those times where I'm working on a task that just is energy draining to me. So, when are you most creative? What time of the day? And do you need that creativity to show up in some of your C and D tasks? Because that will help with the energy level, and that will help with you making less mistakes and getting the work done that you need to get done. All right, let's talk about a couple other areas. Um, think about your own awareness about when you're the most tired, and how do you schedule work that requires less attention? So, in your C and D tasks, when you are most tired, that's not the best time to work in and schedule some of those C and D tasks. You actually want to think about when you're the least tired, doing some of that work that you don't like to do as much, because you will get it done with less mistakes. You will get it done more efficient, and you will be in better spirits when you're working on it. So think about how, when you're tired, what time of day. After lunch is a hard time for a lot of people, right? Our adrenaline is down, what we eat, we're more tired if we haven't eaten, if we're not, drinking water, all of the things. Do you think about after lunchtime what you're scheduling? And then I want to flip this a little bit, and I want to talk about thinking about this also with people and with meetings. So it's not just about the tasks. You can do the same activity with ABCD people that you have to meet with and work with and do life with, and meetings that you have to have, where maybe it's a certain meeting that is an A meeting for you or a B meeting. And you probably have meetings that are also C meetings and D meetings. So the same concept can be applied. And the questions to ask yourself in your own awareness is, when I'm meeting, with someone that is a D. Maybe you have a client, but they're a D client. And to be perfectly honest, we all have that, right? We all have different opinions. We're not going to mix with everyone. Do you think about when you schedule your time with that person? When you have control over that, are you scheduling when it makes the most sense to meet with that person? Because that person being a C or D person that you work with or live with and do life with, there's energy that's draining when you're meeting with them. Maybe you're exhausted after conversations with them. Think about the best time to meet with them. And then also think about what you're doing after you meet with them. Are you scheduling another CD meeting or C&D client right after that one? Is that a good idea? Is that when you're doing the best work and it's the best energy you're bringing? So, thinking about this activity in terms of your own self awareness, what are the tasks? What are the people and the meetings? And applying the ABCD concept, and then using that to really think about how you're scheduling your day when you have control over the things you have control of. That is where the power is really felt in you controlling some of that and using your own energy and your own awareness to your best advantage. So, the last question there is just pick a couple actions that you can commit to in the next 30 days based on this. If you had some aha moments in some of your ABCD tasks or some of ABCD people or meetings, what are just two actions that you can try out in the next month that will possibly make controlling your calendar look a lot different and controlling your time feel more empowered for you? All right. So the last piece here, I just want to touch on as well, because managing our time also has a lot to do with work that we delegate and work that we keep, right? So you can use the ABCD activity to also think about what are the things in your ABCD tasks or skills that maybe is ready to be delegated to others, or that you want to hire someone to do, or that you want to have an intern do. So oftentimes our A work is really the work that we seem to give away more often because it's easy for us. It excites us. So we assume oftentimes that it excites or gives energy to someone else, when really we're hurting our own self aware energy by giving away work that is natural for us that we enjoy. So think of that a little differently in terms of, is there C&D tasks that someone on your team, that someone that you're doing succession planning, that someone that's part of a cohort that would be better at, that maybe it is an AB task or skill for them, and it's a great delegation because they will do it more efficiently, they will perform it better, and they will have better quality because it's an A or B task for them. On the flip side, maybe it's a C or D task for you, and you really need to develop that skill for your business, for your work that you're doing. So you have to be really honest and aware of those tasks and the ones that make sense to delegate for the right reasons. And also the ones where maybe it's a C or D task, but you do need to know it and understand it and develop there. And so that's an opportunity for you to invest in some of that development and use that awareness to build that skill. And the goal isn't to become an A task and everything, right? And have A skills. It's to develop it so you have a confidence level for whatever it is you need to use that skill for. So just notice that in your delegation opportunities and your own development opportunities when you're doing the ABCD activity. All right. So I am going to take us now into a different topic. We talked a little bit about running meetings or I'm sorry, meetings and how you can use the ABCD activity in terms of scheduling meetings and with ABCD people and the people that make up those meetings. But I want to chat a little bit about your meeting invites. And did you know that we have we have a responsibility, and we oftentimes influence the energy that people come to meetings that we run or we set up around. So go with me into this a bit. So these are just some questions to think about. How do you set up your meetings currently? And you can put some comments in the chat in terms of some of your best practices. I think it's a great opportunity to share in terms of what are your best practices. I threw some of the best laid meetings that I have learned over my 2 decades of leading meetings, my best laid plans and what makes them be the most effective and align to the energy that I want to show up with. So, an agenda. There are people based on your own self-awareness that love and need an agenda, and there are people that think, why do we need an agenda? We can just go in and talk about what we talk about. There is not a wrong in that. However, I have found for my energy that an agenda is necessary because I want to share it ahead of time so attendees know what will be discussed and they can bring the information that I'm needing and they can bring the energy that I describe based on what my agenda has down because people attach energy to that and their own self awareness. I also like to do certain time allotted to each topic so that we're well aware of how much time we have to discuss it and we get to all the things that we have set are a priority for that meeting agenda. So I like to say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the case may be, based on how long we have in the total meeting. Note taking, whether you're using AI or having someone take notes, it's absolutely necessary because those notes can then be referred back to. They can be passed on to people that aren't able to make the meeting. And it puts the responsibility on the people that aren't able to make the meeting to own getting caught up on that meeting and knowing what was decided. And then follow up actions and owners documenting that at the meeting, right? There's lots of times we go to meetings and we leave unclear about our next steps and who's owning what. So there's typically a meeting after the meeting that has to happen. So follow up actions and owners documenting those in the meeting so there's awareness and reviewing those with everybody. A great concept to put into best practice for meetings. I also like to set up the next meeting before we end that meeting. So we know if this is an ongoing topic, here's when we'll meet next. And that is also a deadline for the actions in terms of that we agreed to in the owners. So everyone leaves knowing those deadlines, who's owning it, and when we need to have that for the follow-up meeting that's happening. Um, I also like to have either my laptop, my phone, something that keeps me on track and lets the meeting know that I value their time. So I do have someone either watching time or myself with an alarm because I want to value everyone's time and I value my own time. So I like to have tracking in place to see what's happening with our time and that we're using it in the best way possible. And then I love the parking lot philosophy. And I'm sure some of you have a philosophy and it's just named something else, but we can get off topic in meetings. And so introducing a parking lot where the meeting attendees know that I have a parking lot. And if I say, hey, we're going to parking lot that, we are notating that that is going to be discussed at a later date, but we've gotten off topic and we need to get back to what we were discussing on the agenda and what we plan for this meeting. And so then it allows me to come back to those topics that are parking lotted, but at a different time. So it's not, hey, we're not going to talk about that, but it's, hey, we need to get back on topic with this meeting, but we'll come back to the parking lot in another discussion. So, managing our meetings, that manages our time and it allows us to show up in our self awareness and with our energy that um, also honors everybody else's in terms of that as well. All right. So, I want to also talk about not just what to do in the meeting, but how are you inviting people to your meetings? And we can get really creative with our calendar meeting invites, and you would be shocked. There's research that shows that what I do in my invite, in my preparation to people, in my emails and my meeting invites actually has a huge impact in how they show up to that. So we're going to dive into that a little bit here and have some fun with how we set up meetings and what we call them. And what about the subject lines? Does that really matter? It does. All right. So, as I talked about earlier, responsibility in terms of our responsibility in how we invite others to show up in their energy to our meetings. So, for a subject lines, I just have some examples here. And again, use the chat and put in some of your own examples if you have some. But I've really switched this up in my life the last probably decade. And the last 5 years, I've really, really tried to hone in on this. So typically, a subject line for follow up, right? You just put in there, it's a follow up conversation. And that doesn't allude to much excitement. It doesn't allude to, oh, I can't wait to go and follow up, whatever that means, right? And that can be really subjective. It can be really, to one person means something and to another means something totally different. So, what if we called it a brainstorming meeting and we said, get ready to dream about options for our topic from yesterday's meeting? How does that make you feel in terms of your energy and in terms of excitement for that meeting and in terms of knowing what to expect versus a subject line that says follow up? Does it feel a little different? I hope so. It should. All right. What about this one? A subject line might say action needed. That was one I used quite a bit in my corporate world life. And action needed, it means I need an action from whoever I'm sending it to, or there's an actions that we're going to be taking in the meeting. But what if we use something that said decision making meeting? Get ready to come, make decisions, and actions and owners will be decided. And maybe it's a step further. Get ready to come make decisions about whatever a topic is. But that subject line of decision making meeting, get ready to come make decisions and actions and owners will be decided. We are going to get things done in this meeting. I know that going into it. I also know if there's a specific topic that I have information about, I'm going to come with that information because we're going to make decisions and owners will be decided. And if I want to own some of it, if I want to have ownership of it, I want to come prepared for that. So again, that subject line, decision making meeting, and then a little detail instead of action needed, I'm showing up much different. The people I'm inviting will show up much different. And quite frankly, the energy I feel when I read that feels very different than action needed makes me feel. All right, here's another good one. Budget planning. That is so exciting. I told you all budget planning, accounting in my business, that's a D task for me, right? So when I see a subject line that says budget planning, there is not excitement. There is not a higher energy. My own self-awareness is telling me I am dreading, I am not looking forward to this meeting. I am not looking forward to this conversation. And so change that up. What if we say strategic budget planning? Come prepared to talk about our strategy for the budget next year. Changes are coming. Let's get ahead of it. How many of us have, whether we work in a nonprofit, own our own business, work in a corporate role, run our families, how many of us don't have changes to a budget or to a strategy, something that we're planning in the next year? There's always change. There's always going to be change. So having a strategic budget planning meeting, that being the subject line would be something that I did not look forward to. And I wouldn't probably know what I needed to come with fully or what we were doing in terms of that budget planning meeting. But when you say come prepared to talk about what that strategy is for the budget for the next year and changes are coming, let's get ahead of it. I know we're going to be planning for some changes and I want to have some strategic input in that. I have some ideas. So I'm going to prepare those and bring those to that conversation, that meeting. All right. Hopefully, these are giving you some good ideas. All right, the last one. And I'd love for you to put in the chat if you're coming up with any others for you that you might switch up or you might change based on some of this self awareness and wanting to have the energy coming to those meetings and have others come with it. So here's one subject line is meeting request. I hope I can get some thumbs up in the comments that we've all got an invite that said meeting request. And that doesn't tell me anything. It just says you want a meeting with me. But what if you also put meeting request to offer feedback or to have a feedback conversation? First of all, as a leader, I want to always let people know when I'm going to provide them feedback or when I'm going to provide them coaching because I want them to come with the energy and the mindset that's necessary to receive that. Blindsided feedback, blindsided coaching will not lead to what you want it to lead to. So, a feedback conversation, I'll be sharing for your development and ask you to bring feedback to share with me. So, basically, I'm saying I'm going to be sharing feedback with you for your own development. Maybe this is a C or D task that you and I have talked about, and we're aware that you want to develop it. And I want to give you some feedback about some specific examples where I've observed certain behaviors, and there's some feedback I have, or some coaching I have in terms of that. But then I'm also saying, and I want you to bring me feedback because I want feedback from you in terms of how we're collaborating, how we're partnering, what's working for you. So, a meeting request as a subject line tells us nothing and doesn't allude to the energy that you're going to want. But if it's a meeting request to give feedback, let's say, then going into what you want shared and what you plan to share, it's huge in how you show up and how the recipients show up to that conversation. Okay. So, hopefully those are some ideas that you can take with you in terms of your energy and how you set things up on your own calendar, but how that has huge influence and impact on the receivers of it and also the energy and the awareness and the input they bring to those conversations and those meetings because your time is valuable. You're managing your own time by setting up the meetings and the emails in this way and getting a much more efficient and much more quality conversation from those discussions. Okay, let's talk a little bit about probably a really well known tool and then a different approach. So, I want to shift a little bit to in terms of how do you prioritize? How do you prioritize the tasks and the things that you have to do? And how do you know that you're working on the right things? So, as a strategic CEO, you really want to think about what's urgent and what's important. And you all probably have all heard about the Eisenhower matrix. You can Google it, you can chat GPT it. There's lots of different formats that it will pull up. But in essence, you're really looking at a matrix that separates out urgent, important, not urgent, and important, urgent and not urgent, not important. Here's what I'll tell you as CEOs of our lives and our businesses and our roles, we typically spend most of our time in the urgent, important matrix. And that's really the crisis management. It's like reactive fire drills, always on hustle. And the goal, based on research and based on really being strategic about how you prioritize things, is that we're so self aware about ourselves. We're so self aware about our team members and who we collaborate with and our stakeholders that we actually spend 70% of our time in the important, not urgent space because the urgent, important is so little that because we're controlling so much in our proactive space in the important, not urgent. Okay, so let's put a little visual to this. Um, for the Eisenhower matrix, exactly like I just described it from a visual perspective, you have your urgent, important, which is where I said most of us, in terms of CEOs of our lives and our work and our businesses, we spend most of our time here. And it is the I have to do it now. It's only me that can do it. I have to take care of this. And it's very reactive, right? Then you also have your not urgent, important. And this is where we should be spending about 70% of our time as CEOs of our lives and our businesses. This is your decide and schedule a time to do it. So this has to be done. It is a priority. Now I'm going to put it on my calendar. I'm going to schedule it where it makes sense. And I'm going to think about, when do I do my best work? Is this an ABCD task? Where is my energy level? Do I have space in my day next week where I'm at my highest energy to do this C or D task? Or is it an A or B task and I can schedule it when I actually have lower energy because it's going to give me energy? That's the space, the not urgent, important, where we're in proactive mode. Then you also have urgent, not important. This is really where you think about your delegation. And so this may be some of your AB tasks, but it also probably is more likely some of your CD tasks of, are there some opportunities for others that have this strength and you're aware of that strength that they could do it differently and more efficiently and better quality than you. And that might be hard to admit, but that's just who we each are. We each have strengths and we each have things that we're not as good at. And the gift in delegation is to give that opportunity to someone else that either it's already a strength or they want to develop that skill. So your urgent, not important is where you put tasks that you could potentially delegate to others. And then your fourth matrix is your not urgent, you're not important. This is where we have to ask, like, why are we doing this? What is the return on investment for me doing this? Can I eliminate this? Does it still need to continue? This is a lot of tasks where we've always done it this way, so we think we still have to keep doing it. Or somebody a few years ago put us down this path to do it, and so we've just continued doing it. This is where you really have to dig into, does this still make sense for my work, my life, my business? And if you can't answer that and why, it's one that you need to consider deleting. So this is a great matrix. I use this often, not in my day to day, but I use this often for certain programs that I'm launching. I use this often for projects where it's multiple steps. And so this is a tool that is very helpful because then it moves into scheduling it and doing it, moves into your calendar itself in terms of that not urgent and important area. Okay. So I want to take a look at this with you all a little differently. And this is a concept by Kendra Adachi. And she has a book called The Plan. And she also has a podcast called The Lazy Genius. And I have really found her research and work around time management and planning for your life, whether that be work, home, and everything in between. Really found it helpful. So I'm going to quickly go over this and just give you a different concept that you might find helpful in terms of planning. So, first of all, she recommends you have to make it visible. Whatever the things are on your to do list, whatever the things are that you need to get done, just brain dump, get it out, write it down, type it out, put it out there because when you get it out, then you can start to figure it out. So, write it all down. Then you can categorize if you'd like. So, things that are overwhelming, things that don't have a plan, or things that you really want to do. You can start to make up your own categories when you have things out there and lump them into categories. You also need to make it matter. So, maybe that's putting a score or a numerical order through all the things that you've brain dumped that you have to do. You could write lazy or genius, and that's the type of energy that you have to give to this task or this activity next to them. Or you could separate it into have tos and hope tos. Like, here's my list of all my things. What do I have to do for sure this week? And what do I hope to do? And there's a difference there. The third space she talks about is make it smaller. So decide to do something with it. Basically, you batch it. Like, are there groups of things that are errands? Are there groups that's shopping? Are there groups that are under decorating? Is there groups under cleaning? So kind of batch all your to-dos, your activities under certain types that work for you. And again, this is personal. It's about your self-awareness of what works for you, but batching it down and simplifying it to make it smaller. And then we go into the make it happen. So you have to organize your list and you have to start to take that list that you've brain dumped, that you've categorized, that you've made smaller, and now put it into your calendar and look at it through that urgency, have tos, hope tos. Look at it through that lens and apply that then into your calendar. And also think about what are the not urgent and important. And are you doing 70% of that in your calendar? And if not, there's still some tweaking and some learning to do through your own self awareness to get there. So, just another concept. Everyone has a different approach, but these are a few that have really worked for me and lightened the load and helped me feel like I have much control over my time and over my calendar. All right. So, really, to kind of take us home, I want to just share with you some practical but often overlooked strategies for time management. These are ones that we can often be so busy managing all the things and wearing all the hats that we forget that these also are important for our calendar. So, scheduling and taking breaks. I know. Some of us find it hard to take breaks. We get in that zone. That's fine. However, we do better work when we have given ourselves a break, when we get up. And a break can be getting up and walking away for a few minutes. I have sticky notes above my um, desk at home in my office, and one of them says, "Go look outside." And the other one says, "Go take a drink of water." And another one says, "Go look at your plants." Sounds silly, but I need those reminders. And then those tell me to walk away for a minute and take a break because then I come back more focused and ready to do the work that needs to be done that I've scheduled. Another one, break tasks into smaller steps. We talked about that in all of the concepts in the matrix and also the lazy genius making it matter concept. But breaking our tasks down into smaller steps, if you have a big project or a big, you know, um, program you're launching or whatever is going on in your business, when we can break that down into smaller steps, it's much more manageable for our nervous system. It's much more manageable for our mind, and it's much more manageable to get it done and not feel defeated. So break those tasks down, really concentrate on what is a have to, what is a hope to, and breaking them down to get done to the final project. Avoid multitasking and schedule small tasks. So, I think I'm a master multitasker. So this one is hard for me. But what I will say with multitasking is that I often combine complex tasks and then give myself a much less complex task within that task. So use your time wisely, knowing yourself and what you can take on, but not planning to multitask in your calendar is a huge thing to be aware of. Because when we plan for it, that's when we set ourselves up for less success. However, if you're someone that you feel does, and you're very aware that you do multitask well, then there are ways to take a more a smaller task or a task that isn't so complex and put it with a complex one and still be able to do that. And again, it goes back to your awareness. And then scheduling those small tasks. They can seem small, but if they're not scheduled, they're not going to get done. All right. Make it practical. Create a dedicated workspace. Limit your digital distractions, that phone, the scrolling, keep on task. Make sure you know your goals for each day or the week. I like to use a timer. So if I time block, I use a timer to tell me when I'm done with that activity. The prioritization methods that we talked about, Pick one of those, try them out. If it doesn't work for you, change it, do something different through your own awareness, and really organizing your day, looking ahead for tomorrow and organizing how the day is going to flow for you in your calendar through all that you know about your own energy, your own strengths, and your own self awareness throughout the day. All right, so this is in your workbook, and it's just a commitment to yourself. It's your CEO commitment to owning and leading your own time. So I commit to leading my business with the self awareness, the strategy, and purpose of a true CEO. And what's your biggest insight that you've taken today? And just write that down. You can put it in the chat if you'd like to put it there. And then what's your first action step? What's one step that you're going to take to try something different based on what we talked about today? And then, if you're bold and brave enough, put it in the chat. Tell us what's the one thing you're going to try or the insight that you learned today. And throw that in the chat. So, congratulations, everyone. We have really dove into quite a bit of information today and taking you back through just the flexible scheduling systems, how your own self awareness really leads into how you're scheduling your calendar, how you're prioritizing your tasks and breaking them down, and how you're getting really practical about scheduling breaks and the things that seem small. We've talked about how you can say yes to things and no to things through your own self awareness, through that ABCD activity. It's a huge opportunity to really say no to some things or not today, if you will. And also thinking about that with the matrix that we used and knowing that you're empowered to do so. And then the reducing firefighting and regaining control. If we can just spend more and more in the not urgent but important, if we can get close to that 70%, it is a total difference maker in how you spend your day, how you see your day, and how you feel at the end of your day. So I am excited. It has been just fun the last month and this month to spend this time. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really passionate about self-awareness and how that plays into every aspect of our life. And just understanding who we are and how we live and lead. And it's the key. It truly is the key. It comes back to us. And that's really cool because that's the only thing we truly have control over is our own stuff. So I will hand over. Here's a couple of things just to share with the group. I have some 4 one-on-one coaching spots open. So I'm offering a special for the group here for Grow Nebraska. So there's a QR code there if you want to learn more about one-on-one opportunities for coaching. I also have a VIP day coming up that I'm really excited about here in Omaha. So if you're in the Omaha area, and I'll be offering some virtual ones actually in November and December, there's a QR code to check out more information there. And then keep in touch. Join my newsletter. You can also get information on my Kairos Leadership Collective. I'd love to connect with you on socials. You can go to my website at suzannecombsbrown.com and learn all of this. And I will hand it over to Tanya and Cami and open it up for any questions and any last minute things everyone has. Thanks, ladies.
Yes, thank you again. This has been so insightful and so enlightening and really makes us think about, I know personally, like energy levels. I can relate to you a lot on the energy levels, but it makes me like realize, oh, what tasks I should move around. So I hope other people also took away a lot and that being cognitive of the subject line. Some of them you said, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to open that email. So um, thank you again. I know we had a couple just comments in the chat about Amanda's going to change the meeting subject line. She's going to assess the task through the ABCD method. Lots of thanks, lots of comments about how much people appreciated just your insight. So we will keep monitoring the chat for the next few minutes. If anyone has additional follow-up questions for Suzanne, we'll keep her on for a little bit longer. We too have enjoyed our time with you this month and last month. So if you guys missed her last month, it is recorded. So check out our YouTube channel at Grow Nebraska, or you can go to grownebraska.org under our on-demand trainings. You'll find her past webinar there. And then as a reminder, we will send out a follow-up to everyone who signed up for this training. That will include her webinar from today and all the good links that we have from her. If we'd love to see you at future trainings. And so we have a couple great ones coming up on November 13th. Join us for our Grow with Google coach, Keisha, who will also be at our Market Tech Conference, which is March 24th and 25th. It's in Kearney, Nebraska. It is a jam-packed day and a half where people will learn and earn, and you don't want to miss it. We are going to launch early access registration November 1st. So follow us as we lead up to that. We're so excited to keep announcing what we have in store for this coming year. But Keisha will be one of our main stage speakers. So if you want to get a teaser as to what's coming, join us November 13th as she will go over Make Your Small Business More Accessible. And then November 20th, Become a Financial Wizard. Yes, you can. By Tanya, our accountant, is going to demystify your financial statements, and she breaks it down into language that even I can understand. And so be sure that you catch both of those. Sign up. We'll send you reminders. And then after this, when we send our follow-up, we also want you to give us your feedback. And so there'll be a survey in the email. Let us know what you thought of not only Suzanne's presentation, but any subjects that you would like us to bring. So please take just a few minutes. It's a really short, painless survey, but it sure helps us give feedback not only to our speaker, but things that would bring you back to join us again. We do have a Women's Business Center in Omaha, and so we would love for you to take advantage of BAIL. BAIL stands for Banker, Accountant, Insurance, and Legal. So if you're ever wanting to talk to them without having to pay a price, join them. They have every Wednesday from 10:30. They have a couple hours where it's open. So pop on over to the Commonwealth in Omaha. And then we haven't seen any other comments come in. So we want to thank you again, everyone, for joining our training. Thank you to our sponsors who continue to support us so we can offer them free to you. If you have any follow-up questions or would like to know more about Grow Nebraska and how we can maybe partner together or assist you in growing your business to your goals, please reach out. Our contact information is on the screen. And as always, we look forward to seeing you at our next training. Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thanks,
Suzanne.
everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.